Hi guys, it's Sandy from Crafty Stamp Co. And today I am sharing a card that is from one of the stamp sets that's included with the November 2025 Crafty Crew Kit. This particular kit is available for pre-order from October 1st through the 15th. They will ship out on November 5th. There are two ways of ordering it. There's the non-subscription, which you get a 15% discount off of retail prices. It includes shipping. It is $54.99. And then the subscription kit, which is a bi-monthly subscription, you get a 35% discount off of retail prices. Shipping is included. You also get an embellishment and a 10% discount code for non-subscription orders. And that one runs $45.99. This particular card is made with the stamp set called Mellow Marsha, and she is just adorable. So let's just jump right into it. This stamp set has 4 separate stamps showing Marsha having all kinds of fall fun. So the first one is her picking apples. There's also one with her drinking a latte. She's got another one where she's behind a giant pumpkin mug filled with, I'm going to say, hot chocolate with a dollop of whipped cream on top. And then she also is pulling a wagon with gourds and pumpkins. So I wanted my marshmallows to be very, very light in color. So I'm just going to be using one color of Copic markers. The color I'm using just to outline the edges of the marshmallow it's YR000. And then I do go back with R00 and give her just a touch of a pink cheek. Now, when I do my Copic coloring, I like to use Express It blending card. I've been using that for a number of years, and while I do use some other ones, it is my favorite by far. I think it helps me with my blending. It just seems to work perfectly for me. It is a little bit expensive. I do keep all of my scraps and I use them. I just have a little bin full of them and I use them for all different kinds of little teeny stamps. So we'll get the marshmallows colored and then we'll move on to the other elements of the stamp set. Next, we're going to start coloring in the planks of the wagon and the little apple barrel. Now, when I choose my colors, especially if I'm using a patterned paper, I like to kind of swatch them out next to my patterned paper and see what works really well. Sometimes you think one brown's going to work great, and then you look at it next to your pattern paper and it's just not working. So that's how I generally choose my colors. For the wood pieces in this card set, I am using E42, E43, and E44. And when I color, I generally wet or color in the whole area with my lightest color, and then I go back in with my medium color, and then go back in with my darkest color. Sometimes at that point I will go back over the whole area with my lightest color just to kind of help blend some of those different shades in, plus it kind of deepens that lightest color. For my apples, I'm going to be using R02, R14, and R39. Now this is more of an orangish colored red. It's not like your typical, what I would call a Christmas red, which is deep red, but this has got more of an orangey cast to it. So again, I'm starting light. I'm going back in with my medium color, and then I'm just doing a little additional shading with the darker color. For my pumpkins and gourds, I'm going to be using E01, E95, E97, and YR27. Again, I'm just starting with my lightest, moving into my darker colors. I did try to kind of change up the shading on the different gourds just to offset it from the pumpkin in the front. But there wasn't a huge amount of area to work with. But I think it turned out just fine. I'm going to color in this little guy's hat and scarf, and I'm going to be using greens because I've got my little pumpkin stems there too. So the colors I'm using are YG61, G82, and YG63. When I had initially thought about coloring these little guys, I had thought about maybe doing their brims and the little pom-pom on top, a different color that might match their neck scarf. But I found over time that when I start doing that, things just start getting way too busy, and then the eye just doesn't even know what to focus on. So for this card, I kept my hats and my scarves all one color. I did the pumpkin mug orange, of course, and I am using E01, E95, E97, and YR27. And generally, I would not select those colors for pumpkin. But again, I wanted to match the pattern paper and kind of keep everything in the same tone. So those are the colors that I thought worked best for this pumpkin. The whip on the top, I just used a little bit of the YR000, the same color that I used on the little marshmallows. Now his little hat I wanted to do in those tealy colors, so those are usually my blue-greens. And the colors that I used for this hat are BG72, BG75, and BG78. And again, I am just making sure that my hat, the brim, the pom-pom, and what you can see of his little scarf are all the same color. Next up are my blues, and I am using B52 as my light color, B93 as my medium color, and B95 as my darker color. And again, the colors have all been selected based on the pattern paper that came with this particular kit. I love the way all of those colors blended together, so I just wanted to keep in those same tones and family colors. And we're going to finish up with my little Marsha drinking a latte. So for this one, I'm using some yellows. I am using Y21 as my light color. YR21 is my medium. And my dark is YR23. For her little latte mug, I went back into my oranges, used those same colors for the cup, and then just added a little red heart to it. The whip on the top, again, is just the YR000. It's the same as what I used on the different marshmallows. Now that all my little friends are colored in and ready to go, we're going to go ahead and start assembling the card. I went to my stash and I found a die that I thought would work perfect for this card. It had 2 rectangular pieces or openings and 2 square ones. So I went ahead and I cut that out of the kind of sweater print of the orange patterned paper, and I just glued it to a piece of just plain white cardstock. To fill in those openings, I wanted to use more of the pattern paper that came with the kit. I didn't want anything with an actual pattern on it. I wanted something that was more modeled. And so I selected the pieces. I call them my blanket pieces because it reminds me of like a minky plushy blanket, that, you know, those ones that are so comfortable. And I used the tan or the brownish color, and then I used a piece of the blue and a piece of the rust, and I filled in all of those openings. I selected the sentiment that came with the stamp set that says fall cozy mugs and marshmallow hugs. I thought that was perfect for all the different little Marshas. I went ahead and stamped that on a kind of, it's not really a cream colored paper, but an off-white paper, and then just trimmed it out and gave the both ends a little bit of a banner cut. And then I'm going to kind of play around with where I want to put my little marshmallows, where they're going to fit in best with the colors of paper behind them, actually. I always like to add a little bit of dimension to my cards, so I thought that I would go ahead and pop up my little Marshas and the sentiment. So I'm going to use just some foam dots, and I'm actually using thin ones. I'm not using the usual thicker ones, just because I want this one to be a little bit more subtle. In addition to using the foam dots, I do like to use liquid glue on top of them, not only because I have trust issues as far as the dots sticking after a period of time, but using the glue also gives me a little bit of additional wiggle room, a little bit of time to get those pieces placed where I want them, and pressed down before they're hard to move or I have to peel them off and risk tearing my paper. So I'll go around and I will pop up the sentiment and all four of my little Marshas. And then we are going to be pretty close to being done with this card. Now all I have left to do is actually glue this to a card base. I don't think I will be putting a sentiment on the inside. I think this is just really cute as a note card. I love the way this card turned out. I think it just captures fall with all the colors, and then the cute little marshmallows with their darling little stocking caps and their scarves. So to recap, this particular kit is available from October 1st through October 15th, and it is scheduled to ship on November 5th. I will go ahead and put a link down below to Crafty Stamp Co. so you can go ahead and place a kit, order a kit of your own. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I hope you have a fantastic fall. Bye-bye.